In this video, I'm going to walk through searching for a 1939 register record for people that we're dealing with in Gramps. I have on the screen a filter showing people who I need to find a record for. So we're going to start and go ahead with the top one, which is Hannah Broadhead. If I look at the data that we have for Hannah, I'm not looking very hopeful that we're going to find a lot. Have a record of her marriage in 1857, which is some 80 years or so before the 1939 register was taken. She was born in 1838, so she'd be 101. Unlikely she's alive. Haven't found any census records for her after 1857. But what we do have is a full birth date. So we'll go give that a go and see what we can find. So the name we're going to be looking for is, we don't have it, but she married a James Holmes, so it's likely Holmes. What I'll do is I'll search for Hannah with that birth date and see what we get. So we'll go to find my past, we'll go to search 1939 register. We're going to look for Hannah. We're looking for a birth year of 1838 and a birthday of 4th of July. We've got 6 of them. None of these actually have a birth year, and none of them are in the area where we expect Hannah to be, which would be the Huddersfield area, Hepworth. So what I'm going to do with Hannah is I'm going to add a new attribute here called UK 1939 not found reason, and we had some results, so I'm going to say unsure. And what that's going to do is remove Hannah from this list. I can talk more about how these filters are done on another video. Next one is Harry Broadhead. We had him in 1911, so we might have a reasonable chance of finding him. We don't have an exact birthday for him either. Let's have a look at relationships, what's going on. He's married, 3 children in 1911, so we might still have some around in 1939, but they might have moved out by then. Let's have a look what we get. So we're going to clear all that lot off. Harry Broadhead, we have 180 of those. He was born 1873-ish. 15 of those. Let's go with that. Let's see what that gives us. So we're looking at the Oldham area. He's lived in Oldham most of his life. We do have any Oldhams here? We do. 62 Top Street. Did I see that earlier? I did. So that's very likely to be him. Let's have a look at what we have. So he's widowed. So if it is him, Jane has passed away. We have a Harry, born 1899, which is likely that one. One born in 1901 called Maid L. That might be Sam. Well, it's married, so it might be a spouse of Harry. And a Jean, born 1931, so it's likely these two are married. Let's have a look at what we have on here. What's the address? 62 Top Street. That's probably a J. And that's probably Maud. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this is likely to be the record we're looking for. So what I do now is I jump back over to Harry and I will add a new record, a new event. So it is a resident census event, is how I'm classing them in my system. Date 29th of September 1939. The place we had was 62 Top Street, which I already have. Description we're going to put as 1939 register. Hop over to source citations. I'm going to grab a 1939 register source. Date today is 2025-01-21. Right, volume, page, etc. So what we do is we jump back over to here. We say it's in Oldham. ED is NLAO. Registration district is, what was it, 461? 469. And subdistrict 1. And the schedule number was 174. Schedule number is this number here. We're going to add a find my past link attribute to jump us back to this page, which is this one here. And gallery, we are going to download this file. And I'm going to move it to the correct directory. I'm using the command line. You can use whatever tool you are familiar with for moving files. I'm going to go into the 1939 register directory. I'm not expecting any other records on this page to exist already. In some cases there may be, I may already have this image in my system, but I'm pretty sure I don't for this particular one, so I'm going to use a fresh one. Otherwise I'd point to the existing image. But I'm going to move downloads TNA that to this directory. Going back. So now I'm going to jump back over to Gramps. I'm going to I apologise that things keep popping up on my other screen because I'm used to using two screens for this, but I can only record on one, so I'm having to keep moving things around. So grab that image there. That's brought it over to here. Find number 62, draw a box around it. I'm then going to click this button here to open a clipboard. And I'll park that over here for now. Move that to there. Done with the source citation. Going to move the source over here as well because we're going to be using that. The image, we're also going to put a reference to it there. Don't need it anymore though. So that's our 1939 register entry. I'm going to put that over in my clipboard as well. So what else do we know about Harry? What can it tell us? Well, we know his name was definitely Harry. So we'll add an extra citation to the name. I'm just going to make that a little bit smaller. What else has it told us? 5th of June 1873 was his birthday. Well, that's new information, which fits with our current range. So 5th of June 73. I'm going to edit the notes here to add an extra record. Just say date of birth 1873 0605. The reason for this is that sometimes you can get conflicting records relating to when or where somebody was born. So it's good to keep a note of what each record said, so that when you do come and have a conflict, you can look through and work out which one is more likely. And it helps make sure that everything else lines up as well. Because otherwise, what you're doing is you're having to go through each source and double check again what the date of birth was on those sources or what the age was and then try and work it out. Whereas if I've just got them all in one place here, it makes life a little bit easier. So, what else do we have? Well, it says it's a widow. Which one's widow? This one's for widow. So that's new information. So what we're going to do is we're going to head over to his wife here. We're going to add a death record for her and say that she died before 1939 or 929, with the source of being that 1939 register record. And what I'm also going to do is add a tag here to remind me to search for the death record, which I'll come to later on. Attributes, yeah, that's all fine. So what else do we know about him? He is a machine tool fitter, so we'll add that as an occupation. So we go add event, vocation, occupation, date, and description, machine tool fitter. We'll add the source citation for that. Now that's it that we can get for him in the 1939 register. As part of my process, I don't look. There are no census records after 1939 that we can use yet. I don't have the 1921 yet, but I've got a huge backlog of 1921 to go through. So I'm going to work through all the 1939s first before I come on to 1921, at least until I've worked through them all. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tag him now as search for death record, because we know he died sometime after 1939, and we'll find that out later. So we've also got Harry Jr. It even says Harry Jr. Is that 13th of August? What if I find my passport? It as 23rd of August. Yeah, probably 23rd. So we're going to jump over to Harry. First things first, we've got a source for his name. We've got the 1939 register event. We're going to mark him as primary. It doesn't come up as primary by default for the second or third people, so we have to do that. Of August 99, which is within our range that we're expecting. 1899 0823. Again, source for that. Add the notes. Okay, what else do we have? Well, he's also a machine tool fitter. So we'll add vocation, occupation, machine tool fitter. We also know that he appears to be married. So we're going to add a family marriage event with him as the groom before 1939 or 929. So we know. And we're going to put that over here as well, because I'll come back to that in a second. Is that all we know? It is. Now, we think that's Maud. We can verify that by looking at the marriage record. And there's a Jean here who was born in 31, likely the child of these two, who was then married to somebody called Whitworth, or at least changed the name to Whitworth, sometime before 1959. Now, I think what I will do is at this point I'm going to search for the marriage record of these two. I don't normally like to go off track and start pulling things from different sources, but in this case it's just going to verify what we've got here. And we'll have to search more details later on. So what I'm going to do is, we know that he was married before 1939. And I'm going to do a whole video on searching for marriage records later on. But we're going to jump over to 3BMD, marriages, surname, Broadhead, first name, Harry. When did he marry? Well, he was born in 89. I like to assume no marriages before the age of 15. So that would be 1909 plus 5, which is 1914, and 1939. Now it's likely, given the other records, it was sometime around 1930, 1931-ish would be my guess, but let's see what we get. We've got quite a few. Can we revise that by sticking a Maud in here? No, that gives us nothing. Okay, let's revise it by sticking Oldham in here and see what that gives us. That's given us 1925. It's a little earlier than I thought, but what do we have? Maud. There we go. That's the one we're after. So, what we're going to do then is we now know the date of this, or at least we know it's between July and September 1925. So we're going to modify this marriage date between 1925 0701 1925 0930, and we know that it was in Oldham Registration District. The source for this is the GRO Index of Marriages. Date today 2025 0121. We know that it was Q3 1925, Oldham, volume 8D, and page 2454. Grab that over here. So that's going to help us, because the next thing we're going to do back to the 1939 is add Maud in. So we're going to click this button here, which is add a new family with this person as parent. We know they're married. We're going to add a new person. The Maud with an E, I, and Dunkerley. I'm going to copy that because I'm going to spell it wrong otherwise. So a couple of tags I'm going to add on here. Don't expand up. I don't want to know who her parents are. Not blood related to me. We are going to want to find her birth record. That will do for now. Names. That's a birth name. The source for that being birth name is this marriage record. Potentially she could have remarried. If that's the case, I'll modify that to say it's not the birth name. But for now, that's my working assumption. I've got an event for her. She was a bride in that marriage event. That's all we know from the GRO marriage index. Also on the family, going to stick the marriage event here. There's a family role. What I didn't do, I don't think I added, I did have the source. Cool. Right. So we can get rid of that, and we can get rid of that now. Back to 1939. We have Maud spelt differently here. So actually we're going to add a second name. We're adding a second name anyway because it's a different surname. But we're doing Maud I. And the surname now is Broadhead. So source for that is the 1939 register. that she was present there, so we add her. What other information do we have? Date of birth. Looks like 6th of August 01. So we can add a birth event. 6th of August 01. Don't know where she was born. Source. Note. Covered the name off. Unpaid domestic duties is the vocation. And that was it for Maud. Now the other one is we have a Jean. Likely to be a child of these, not necessarily. But what we can do is we know when she was born, April 31. So we're going to head back to the 3BMD. We're going to search for her birth record. Broadhead Jean. If she was born in April, it's going to be registered from June. Give them an extra bit, say that. June or September 31. Dunkerley. Born in Saddleworth, interestingly. But we've got a match there for Dunkerley. That's probably the best we're going to get. So, again, I'm fairly sure that that is the child. So we'll add here. I'm not going to click the plus there. I'm going to use this one because it gives us a little bit extra options. So, Jean Broadhead. Wasn't any other names? No. So, source for the name. I'm going to ignore the 1939 register for now and just use the GRO. Index of births 2025 0121. It was Q2 1931. Saddleworth. I'm not sure I've had a Saddleworth before. 9C478. No notes needed. That I think is all we need there. So we've got a birth event. We can add that from the GRO index as being between 1931 February we use because you've got 6 weeks to register the birth. So I tend to use February as the start date for Q2. And Q2 ends in 0630. Saddleworth. Do I have it? I don't have Saddleworth, so we're going to add a new place. We're going to call Saddleworth Reg D. It is of type registration district. Don't do a latitude and longitude for these. It's Saddleworth, is that Lancashire? No, it's West Riding. Oh, it's both. Helpful. So registration county is Yorkshire, West Riding. It was abolished in 74. Okay. Enclosed by the West Riding of Yorkshire. Which brings up this box here. Source citation was this one. Boom, so we've got a birth event. What else do we don't even know. What else does this tell us? Well, this tells us the mother's maiden name. What we're going to do with her is we're going to tag as search for birth record as well. and then this. The reason we use this option to do it is it pops up this one, which allows us to say that our source for her being a child of this father and mother is the GRO register of births, or index of births, not the actual register. So got that. We can get rid of that now. We've covered everything off in here. Let's jump back to 1939. So what does it tell us? I'll come back to the name change in a little bit. So we've got name, Jean Broadhead. So I've got a source for that. We've got the fact that she was present in 1939. We've got a date of the 15th of April 31 for birth. So that modifies this one. 3104, it was the 15th? 15th, yeah. So we've got a new source for that. And we can add a note to this, say 1939 register, date of birth equals 1931 0415. At school is vocation. What I'm also going to do on here, we found a birth record, so actually we don't need that. I'm going to tag a search for birth notice. So we're going to have a search later on in the newspapers, see if there's a birth notice. And a christening, 1931 tends to be quite late for when we have christening records, I find, so I'm probably not going to search for christening. So the other thing we have on here is this annotation here saying Whitworth, 28th of May 59 in Oldham. So that's likely a marriage sometime before that date to somebody called Whitworth. So what we'll do, what we have on the 1939 is just unknown. We don't know what type of name it is at the moment. But we've got Whitworth. So we've got a source there. So what I'm also going to do now is add a tag for search for marriage. I've only got search for marriage notice rather than record, but I'm going to search for marriage record now. I don't want GRO, I want 3BMD. So we're going to search in here, marriages, surname, Broadhead, Jean, Whitworth. The date we had was 59, was it? 1959. So it happened sometime before 1959. She was born in 31. So 41 would be 10 years old, 46 would be 15 years old. Well, we've got one of them in Oldham, 1953. So it took a while to notify the 1939 registered people to Arthur Whitworth. So what we're going to do with her now is we're going to change that to be a married name. Source for that is the GRO index of marriages. Date today, 2025-01-21. The marriage was /2/53. It was in Oldham. It was 10F216. Going to add as a bride a marriage event between 1953 0401 1953-06-30. Unlike births and deaths, the marriage events registered immediately, so they're always in the correct quarter, whereas the birth events you have, I think it's 6 weeks to register, and death events can, normally it's within a couple of days, but occasionally if a coroner is involved it can be sometime later. Back in the day it was probably no more than a week, but nowadays coroner's events can take sometimes months to happen. So I tend to allow an extra month for the death events. But this one's a marriage event. It was in Oldham. Source is that. I'm going to grab that over here. I'm going to keep this search for marriage notice because I'm still going to search the newspapers for that. You might get a more accurate date. So we're going to add a new person. They are married. We have a marriage event here. Whole family. And it was it Arthur Whitworth? That comes down here. So on him, we're going to search for his birth record. Don't expand up, he's not blood related. We're probably not going to find much on him because it looks like a relatively common name. He was the groom. So that's all we have there. That's that done. We're done with that marriage event, and I think we're done with the census event. We are. So that should now have these disappeared out of here. You notice some of these have changed colour. We find those. They are now gone. This is a different Harry Broadhead. So that concludes this quick walkthrough. I say quick, how long we've been going? 30 minutes of going through a 1939 register record. I'm probably going to do other ones for different census events and more information on going through GRO records as well. But I think we will leave it there for now.